And a very good morning to all News 9 viewers. I'm Neha Bhan. Let's take a look at some of the top national and international stories of this hour. We begin with what's been happening on the Israel-Hamas war front. Now, the war between Israel and Hamas has entered the 42nd day. Let's take a quick look at the top developments right on your screens. Now, today is the 42nd day. Israel's defense minister has announced next stage of the offensive in Gaza. Israeli forces, meanwhile, have withdrawn from Al-Shifa hospital in Gaza. That's what the reports are stating. Body of Israeli hostage has been found near Al-Shifa. That is what the IDF has claimed. Meanwhile, United Nations is looking for ways to evacuate Al-Shifa hospital. Civilians in Gaza are facing immediate possibility of starvation. That's what the World Food Programme has stated. Now, talking about the death toll. At least 11,470 Palestinians have lost their lives in the Israel-Hamas war so far. It's a complete communication blackout in Gaza. Communications blackout in Gaza on Thursday night. Now, Indonesian hospital in northern Gaza has been completely shut down. Israeli president has stated that India can raise its voice for peace in the region. Well, those were the latest updates from the 42nd day of the Israel-Hamas war. Israel President Isaac Herzog has said India advocates peace and can definitely pursue the voice of reason and security for Israel and peace for the region. In an exclusive interview with news agency ANI, Isaac described India as a very important nation in the world, quote-unquote. Asked if India can play a role to mediate or moderate the conflict, the Israel president talked about the need to rebuild Gaza as a peaceful place. He charged that Iran was behind the recent attack on Israel, while he also emphasized Iran's clear threats against agreement, which includes Saudi Arabia, Israel and the US, as well as Iran's desire to thwart US President Joe Biden's ambitious plans for an energy, communications, business and scientific corridor connecting Israel to India. Listen in.
India is a very important nation in the world, and it was my honor, my true honor, to speak at the joint session of the US Congress in Washington in July, just a few weeks after Prime Minister Modi spoke. We believe that, India advocates peace. It's a very, very impressive, I would say, country. I mean, one of the greatest on earth. And India can definitely pursue the voice of reason and security for Israel and peace for the region.
But do you think India can play a role in this conflict to moderate or to mediate?
I don't know. I'm not sure, but I say that the day after, part of the issue will be how do we rebuild Gaza again, and how we make sure that Gaza is a safe haven and a peaceful place. That would be it. And then we can speak about doing business with the Mediterranean and having Israelis and Palestinians have a true dialogue. India has a lot to contribute to all these ideas.
Sir, is Israel ready for the two-front war? Like, as you mentioned, that you are facing attacks from north now, that is the Hezbollah. Do you think you are prepared, and are you going to escalate this war with Lebanon or Hezbollah?
No, we are not seeking to escalate. But what we are seeing is a phenomenon which is outrageous. We are being attacked on a daily basis from Lebanon by Hezbollah and its proxies. We are retaliating, we are carrying out days of battle, but we haven't reached an all-out war, and we are not intending to. We don't want to, but if we are dragged, we are fully prepared. We have a huge army up north, we have a huge army down south, and we are ready for all developments. Our citizens were removed from the border, and it's not an easy issue now, tens of thousands, if not more. And we hope that it won't happen and that peace will return to the border. But we will have to find, and the world community has to undertake and find the ways and means to secure Israel's security and right to defend itself, and most importantly, not to be threatened by any enemy on the border. There is a Security Council resolution which was passed after the Lebanon War of 2006. It's number 1701, which makes clear how military forces cannot be on the border from the Lebanese side, and it's been violated for years. So we will have to discuss it, and of course, India's voice here is very important in the international community, as you also have soldiers in various peacekeeping forces. First of all, we are not targeting hospitals. Hamas has placed command and control centers under the hospitals. And from there, they are shooting and killing our citizens. So we have the right to defend ourselves. So they have the right to go into everywhere they have missiles. They have missiles in living rooms. They have terror machines in all over the civilian premises. So what we do, we alert everybody in advance, according to the rules of international humanitarian law. And we send millions of leaflets and millions of phone calls we are doing. And we're sending millions of text messages, and we are telling the people in the war zone, please leave your premise so that we can go in and take all this infrastructure from your home. Some of them, in my mind, were accomplices, but some not. I agree. There are many civilians in Gaza who are innocent and not involved. But because this place was taken over, we have to remove that. In the hospitals, what we are doing is, God forbid, we are making sure that none of the patients, the doctors or the crew or the operations are even stopped. On the contrary, we brought in to the Shifa hospital a lot of equipment and food and fuel and whatever is necessary to operate the hospital. But underneath, in the cellar, in the basement, there is a war machine with missiles, with weapons, with an entire command and control. From there, they sent this barbaric terrorists to go into Israel. From there, they brought the hijacked and the abducted civilians from Israel into those premises. So that's what we do. Well, one thing is clear. Israel must be guaranteed full safety of its citizens. Nobody in Israel will agree to go back to the pre-7th of October situation. We cannot be threatened, and you know what? Part of the issue is that we are also attacked from our north by Hezbollah, which is a huge terror organization that has taken over Lebanon under the arms of Iran. And the real empire of evil here starts in Tehran and spreads Islamic fundamentalism of the worst kind to the entire region. They have taken over Syria and Lebanon and Gaza, and now from Yemen we are attacked, and Iraq, and everybody should be very aware of evil effort to undermine the entire regional situation. Let me remind your viewers, about a month and a half ago or so, 2 months ago, in the G20 summit, where Prime Minister Modi was there, President Joe Biden of the United States announced a special corridor of energy and communications and business and science from Israel all the way down to India, through Saudi Arabia and the Gulf and Jordan. An amazing, amazing vision that connects all of us together, that will connect Europe to Southeast Asia and even America all the way to Australia. That's a grand vision. That gives India a huge strength on the way. But somebody decided that they want to derail this effort of inclusion of Israel and this huge peace vision of President Biden. Imagine and think who. At the end, this empire of evil of Iran is working extra hours to undermine any inclusion of Israel in the region and any peace process. I think for a long time we've been sharing know-how on combating terrorism. We remember the Mumbai horrific attacks and how the Jewish community was attacked in Mumbai, as well as many from the non-Jewish community. And we always express sorrow, and when we remember that. There's a lot of issues to share. We share in science and technology. We share in doing good to the world, in medicine. We have a great message as two great ancient nations how to contribute to the world, and there's a lot of mutual admiration. So in this interview, I thank you for hosting me, but also I want to express a clear message of affection and friendship to the people of India, wherever they are, and the leadership of India.
Then now Israel President Isaac Herzog saying that India advocates peace and can definitely pursue the voice of reason and security for Israel and peace for the region. He is also, in fact, asked if India can play a role to mediate or moderate the conflict. He talked about the need to rebuild Gaza as a peaceful place, while also charging that Iran was behind the recent attack on Israel, also emphasizing Iran's clear threats against the Apostle Agreement, which includes Saudi Arabia, Israel and the United States, as well as Iran's desire to thwart United States President Joe Biden's ambitious plans for an energy, communication, business and scientific corridor connecting Israel to, in fact, India. Now, the Ministry of External Affairs on Thursday stated that India has always stressed the need for humanitarian relief and de-escalation in the Israel-Hamas war. MEA spokesperson Arindam Bakshi, while speaking on the storming of Israeli forces into Al-Shifa hospital, said it was not just about one specific facility. He mentioned that India has provided humanitarian aid to Palestine while also condemning the terror attack by the Hamas terrorist group. Bakshi said India has always underlined the need for civilian casualties to be avoided and for humanitarian law to be observed. He added India also sent 38 tons of relief material and more aid is on the way. Israel claims that the Hamas operatives were using the hospital as a command and control center. Listen in.
This is not about one specific facility. The issue is not about one facility or a specific facility. India has always underlined the need for civilian casualties to be avoided, for humanitarian law to be observed, and of course to encourage any efforts to provide humanitarian relief to those caught in the conflict. We have also, on a larger issue, talked about efforts to de-escalate the situation, deliver humanitarian assistance, our concern at the humanitarian increasing civilian toll. We had also talked about how India had sent, I think, 38 tons of humanitarian relief material. We are looking to send more assistance. We had also condemned strongly the horrific terrorist attack on October 7th and our zero tolerance for terrorism and the need for immediate and unconditional release of the hostages. So, yes, I would reiterate, as I said, our perspective on anything that can help humanitarian assistance.
The Israeli Defense Forces stated that they have clear information indicating a connection between Hamas activities in Al-Shifa hospital and the hostages. It also mentioned new findings indicating a Hamas tunnel network under the complex. The forces are currently investigating laptops and other technological devices that were found in the medical center. The IDF reported that it has found data at Al-Shifa hospital linked to the hostage Ori Mogaddish, the Israeli hostage recently rescued by the Israeli Defense Forces. They discovered pictures of Mogaddish from before she was kidnapped on a laptop at Hamas's Shifa command center. The IDF also stated that there is extensive additional data that it still needs to look into, and it will continue to make announcements as it gathers more details from that particular data. The Israeli forces stormed into the compound of the hospital. It claims that Hamas terrorists are taking shelter in the hospital and they're using the hospital as a command and control center. Now, in the latest, the Israeli Defense Forces have stated that they have clear information which indicates a connection between the Hamas activities in Al-Shifa hospital and the hostages. Do remember that on the 7th of October, Hamas carried out a deadly assault against Israel and against southern Israel, killing about 1,400 people and taking about 224 people as hostages. Now, in the Shifa hospital complex, the IDF troops discovered a hidden booby-trapped vehicle with a bunch of weapons inside, such as AK-47s, RPGs, sniper rifles, grenades and other explosives. Take a look.
Okay, we are here in the city of Gaza, in the heart of the city of Gaza, in Shifa hospital, and this is what Hamas is trying to hide from you. We found a vehicle filled with ammunition, RPGs, AK-47s, we see handcuffs, knives, preparation for taking hostages from Israel on the attack of October 7th. As you can see, they were very well prepared, and where they're hiding all of this equipment is in a hospital, a place that's supposed to be for humanitarian aid. They have all this evil hidden here. As we can see, we are in the heart of the hospital. And this is where they choose to hide everything, because they know the IDF won't attack, the Air Force won't attack here. So they use the hospital as human shields.
Escaping war-torn Gaza City offers little respite for Palestinians heading to the south, where challenges persist. The scarcity of electricity and medical resources compounds difficulties, especially for those with pre-existing health concerns. Take a look at this report.
A sight to behold.
This room contains right now Palestinians and Jews who actually, in the darkest, most polarizing, most difficult moment in the history of the two peoples right now, is choosing to actually work together.
They want to send a message they feel cannot be repeated enough.
Millions of Palestinians will remain here, and millions of Jewish people will remain here, and that's a fact.
This meeting at a mosque in Haifa is organized by Standing Together, a grassroots peace movement made up of Jewish and Palestinian citizens of Israel. Activists tell me such togetherness has been rare since the October 7th Hamas attacks, and that often demonstrations of solidarity in either direction are met with rejection.
We have friends, we have neighbors, we have peers, we have colleagues who are Jewish who got deeply impacted by this. And we were devastated by the attack. But even that was not something that was fully accepted by a lot of the Jewish public. Oh, you're hurting for us now, but so you can't identify as Palestinian.
We do suffer from calls for violence, from being called being a traitor, from incitement against us Jewish people that are working towards peace, that are working to build solidarity among Jews and Palestinians.
The fact that we are even unable to fully experience and grieve our people is like the epitome of our psychosis and our experience as Palestinians in Israel. I'm literally unable to fully grieve my people, while also you're on a mission to convince people you're human.
People here believe deepening divisions in Israeli society make it all the more important to meet and to show empathy with one another. So they put that empathy, quite literally, center stage. In defiance of local right-wing groups which tried to get the event cancelled. It's happening under tight security. It's more than just talk, though. Volunteers visit places where Muslims and Jews work together, like this hospital near Haifa. They handed out thank you cards to staff, written in Arabic and Hebrew. Tamara Asadi is a Palestinian-Israeli teacher who works at a predominantly Jewish school.
It is important for me to be a role model for my students, for my country, and everyone around me.
The visit is happening 1 month after the October 7th terror attack.
It's so important to remark the fact that we are together in the staff here and many other places. We are doing very, very naturally togetherness. Naturally, togetherness.
What about Jewish people like yourself?
Back at the assembly, I ask Alon Lee Green if he feels their movement speaks for the majority in Israeli society.
No. But do all the society, the majority of society, have the interest of the direction we want to go? I think the answer is yes.
After the speeches, attendees break up into small groups. They brainstorm more practical ways they might spread their message and to convince more of their fellow Israelis to see each other the way they do.
The United Nations is looking for ways to evacuate Al-Shifa hospital in Gaza, but options are limited by security and logistical constraints. The WHO observed that there were still about 600 patients, including 27 in critical condition at the Shifa hospital, which Israeli forces entered this week following a day-long siege. Listen in.
So we are looking at options for medical evacuation, but there are a lot of security concerns. There are a lot of logistics constraints. Our options are rather limited, but we hope to have some better news in the next 24 hours. Firstly, you need to secure security guarantees and safe passage for any convoy. Negotiations with the Israeli Defense Forces are being managed through the UN offices. Then we have to prioritize the patients who would be moved first. So we'd be looking at the most critically ill, and again, those neonates. So we're going to be working with the doctors and nurses in the hospital to do that prioritization and come up with a list and make sure that they have companions, that parents travel with the neonates. But that's been a difficult exercise because our communications with the hospital is cut off most of the time. The third issue, of course, is just the lack of fuel. And so the Palestinian Red Crescent Society says right now of the 25 ambulances they haven't had sufficient fuel to move north.
Now, 3 suspected Palestinian assailants opened fire at a checkpoint on a main road between Jerusalem and West Bank city of Bethlehem, wounding 6 people. Security forces opened fire at the assailants, police said, adding that they managed to secure the perimeter.
Behind me is the tunnels crossing that leads into Jerusalem. A short while ago, terrorists approached this crossing and opened fire on our security forces who are standing to guard our civilians. As these terrorists opened fire, our security forces returned the fire and managed to neutralize the threat. At the scene, we located 2 handguns, 2 M16s, who were used by these terrorists in order to cause terror, to harm our security forces who are defending our civilians. Large police forces arrived to the scene, including IDF forces, who managed to secure the perimeter. We have bomb disposal experts from the Israel police on site who are managing the scene to make sure that there's no more suspicion of any explosive ordnance or anything of the sort. We have a police helicopter that's in the air securing the surrounding perimeter, and at this time we have police commanders together with IDF commanders who are initiating the situational assessments taking place in the field to make sure that we can continue opening the crossing and make sure that all our civilians will stay safe. Our well wishes are with the victims of the heinous terror attacks.
Reports indicate a surge in anti-Jewish sentiments on Chinese online platforms, with individuals expressing support for both Hamas and Adolf Hitler while posting derogatory comments against Israel. Notably, despite China's typically stringent internet censorship, these offensive remarks are largely remaining unchecked. Take a look.
At this press conference in Europe, there is grief and anguish for Chinese Israeli women kidnapped in the October 7th Hamas terror attack. But in China, an interview by Noah Argamani's mother met with hateful responses online. The most liked comment said, "I don't want to pay attention to her." Even more anti-Semitic attacks have flooded China's strictly censored internet since the Israel-Hamas war erupted. On Weibo, a microblogging platform like X, some nationalist influencers with millions of followers compared Israel's bombing on Gaza to the Holocaust in World War II. Some comments praised the late German dictator Adolf Hitler and his persecution of Jews. And on a map widely used in China, only the city Jerusalem has been labeled. The country name Israel has disappeared. The Israeli embassy temporarily closed its comment section over abusive posts, and its diplomat publicly expressed disappointment. Chinese censors wipe out online content not approved by the government. Yet, anti-Semitic comments related to the October 7 terror attacks by Hamas have lingered for weeks.
After the 7th of October terrorist attack by Hamas, Israel's Arab community confronts rising hostility and discrimination. In the midst of this tension, a Jewish-Palestinian initiative strives for understanding and unity, bridging ethnic divides as well. Listen in.
Since being displaced from the Jabalia refugee camp in the north, Hana Abu Zaid has been living in a tent in Khan Yunis in the southern Gaza Strip. The 55-year-old has health problems, including severe asthma, which she has been suffering from for years. She needs to use her inhaler daily and can only do so by connecting it to a battery. There's no electricity here, and that's not the only hardship in the camp.
I have severe shortness of breath. The first thing that helps me is my device. But the temperature inside the tent is very high, and it's humid. And at night, I can't sleep. Whenever the neighbors use a fire to cook, it affects my breathing. I used to have a monthly appointment with the UN agency, and I used to receive monthly treatment.
The camp for displaced people is overcrowded. 27,000 people live here. With no adequate health facilities and no electricity, proper treatment is difficult. Several times a day, Hana has to walk to the charging station to recharge the battery for her inhaler.
When there's not enough power in the battery, I have to go and charge it. It's a distance of half a kilometer. Every 2 steps, I have to stop and rest. I use the inhaler at least 10 times a day. Maybe more than that. It's a really long distance for me. I'm tired. I need electricity. I need help.
There is a healthcare center inside the camp, but it's not equipped to provide all services that patients need. However, doctors and medical staff here try their best to give their patients as much care as they can with what they have at their disposal.
We receive dozens of medical cases because of environmental and water pollution and infections. That's in addition to the many cases of chronic diseases like Hannah, who suffers from asthma and angina and needs treatment on a daily basis. Our treatment is aimed at alleviating the severity of the chest pain that she suffers from.
Along with other displaced sick people, Hannah Abu Zaid hopes to soon be provided with electricity inside the tent. Being able to charge and operate her inhaler here would make survival a little bit easier.
Now switching our focus from Israel, rescue teams are in a race against time to free 40 construction workers trapped under debris for more than 120 hours after a tunnel collapse. Let's take a look at the latest developments on the rescue operations. The rescuers have brought in state-of-the-art American-made horizontal dry drilling equipment with auger and has commenced drilling an escape passage. Deepak Patil, leading the rescue operation, expressed optimism about the success of the current plan, stating, quote-unquote, high chance of Plan B being successful, just a matter of a few hours. The timeline remains uncertain due to potential obstacles such as boulders in the debris, as mentioned by NHIDCL director. Now, despite challenges with loose debris, Khalko conveyed hope for better results, estimating that drilling through 50 to 60 meters of piled-up debris could take around 12 hours. Union Minister of State of Road Transport and Highways, VK Singh, after assessing the operation, assured that the government and its agencies are dedicated to completing the rescue within 2 to 3 days. Officials have established a 6-bed makeshift health facility and 10 ambulances, with expert doctors also being positioned outside the tunnel for immediate medical care upon the evacuation of the trapped workers. We're talking about what's been happening on Uttarkashi. Today is the 6th day. Rescue teams are currently on the spot. They're racing against time. 40 construction workers are trapped under the debris. It's been over 120 hours since the tunnel collapse. They're being provided with food and oxygen as well, but they did complain of nausea, headache, among other things. Now, the American auger drill is anticipated to cut through 70 meters of rock, a substantial amount of which fell during the ongoing rescue operations. The machine operates at a theoretical speed of 5 meters per hour and is expected to complete the task in approximately 12 to 15 hours. Authorities plan to bore through the rock and create an 80-centimeter passage for the trapped laborers to crawl through in the event of incapacitation or injury. The chief of the National Disaster Relief Force stated, we can use stretchers and harnesses to bring them out. Since the rescue efforts began on Sunday, following the collapse of a section of the tunnel roof, challenges such as rock falls have impeded progress. The recent incidents have extended the blocked portion's length from an initial 40 to 50 meters to an estimated 70 meters. Now, why is the operation so difficult? The rescue operation is difficult due to the condition of the soil. The soil at the mishap site is loose and boring is to be carried out with extreme care to prevent the collapse. Let's now talk about what's been happening on the election front in India. Polling is underway in a single-phase election for the all 230 seats in Madhya Pradesh. According to the Election Commission of India, there are about 5.6 crore voters in 230 constituencies of Madhya Pradesh. And of these, 2.88 crore are male voters and 2.72 crore are female voters. A total of 22.36 lakh youth will be voting for the first time in the Madhya Pradesh Assembly election 2023. Prime Minister Narendra Modi held 15 meetings, public meetings in Madhya Pradesh, while State Chief Minister Shivraj Singh Chauhan addressed 160 public gatherings. BJP National President JP Nadda held 14 public gatherings and State BJP President VD Sharma also addressed 55 public meetings. BJP there leaving no stone unturned to storm back to power. In 2018, remember, it was the Congress that was voted to power, but due to the rebellion led by Jyotiraditya Scindia, the Kamal Nath government fell and eventually Shivraj Singh Chauhan came back to power. The BJP, in fact, came back to power. We have a couple of reactions coming in. Let's listen in.
मैं मतदान करने जा रहा हूँ जी, पूरा प्रदेश मतदान करने जा रहा है। मुझे पूरे प्रदेश पर विश्वास है कि वह प्रदेश की तस्वीर अपने सामने रख के सब चौपट प्रदेश और सच्चाई का साथ देंगे। मैं जनता पर, मतदाताओं पर विश्वास कर रहा हूं। मैं शिवराज सिंह नहीं हूं कि बोलूं इतनी सीटें आएंगी, उतनी सीटें आएंगी। जनता तय करेगी कि कितनी सीटें आएंगी। मैं लड़ रहा हूं, मैं तो 40 साल से लड़ रहा हूं, 16 साल से लड़ रहा हूं। ये सब अंदाज मैं नहीं लगाता, मैं जनता के ऊपर छोड़ता हूं। नए वोटर्स को तो खास कह रहा हूं कि उनका पहला वोट है, बड़े ध्यान से दें, बड़े समझदारी से दें और अपना भविष्य भी सुरक्षित रखें। बीजेपी के पास अब पहले पुलिस, पैसा और प्रशासन था, अभी भी कुछ घंटों तक पुलिस, पैसा और प्रशासन है। पूरे रात, कल पूरे दिन मुझे फोन आए, मुझे तो वीडियो कॉल किसी ने किया शराब बढ़ते हुए, मुझे वीडियोस भेजे शराब और पैसे बढ़ते हुए।
मतदाताओं से कहना चाहता हूं कि मतदान अवश्य करें। भारतीय जनता पार्टी ने जिस प्रकार प्रदेश की सेवा की है, मुझे उम्मीद है कि लोग घर से निकलकर वोट डालना प्रारंभ कर दिया है। लंबी लंबी लाइनें भी लगना चालू हो गई है और हम सरकार बनाएंगे, भारतीय जनता पार्टी की सरकार बनाएंगे और डबल इंजन की सरकार मध्य प्रदेश में जैसे पहले हमने विकास किया वैसे हम विकास करेंगे। हम लगभग 150 से ऊपर सीट जीते।
Now, the second and final phase of Chhattisgarh Assembly elections 2023 for the remaining 70 seats is taking place today. In the high-stake battle, the final phase will decide the electoral fate of political heavyweights like Chief Minister Bhupesh Baghel, his deputy T.S. Singh Dio, Assembly Speaker Charan Das Mahant, 8 state ministers and 4 members of parliament. Baghel is contesting from his traditional Patan seat where the BJP has fielded his distant nephew and party MP Vijay Baghel. The first phase of elections for 20 seats in the Naxal-affected areas took place on the 7th of November. Bhupesh Baghel also spoke with the media. Let's listen in.
70 सीटों के आज मतदान होना है और ये प्रजातंत्र का महापर्व है और छत्तीसगढ़ में पर्व मनाने की परंपरा है। हम हरेली मनाते हैं, तीज मनाते हैं, छिरछेरा मनाते हैं, होली और दीपावली भी मनाते हैं। और ये दीपावली पर्व तो भगवान राम जब लंका विजय करके आए थे तो दीपोत्सव के रूप में हम मनाते हैं। और भगवान राम का तो ननिहाल है, माता कौशल्या की मायके है, तो ये खुशी हमारे लिए बहुत बढ़ जाती है। और हमारे छत्तीसगढ़ है, वो छत्तीसगढ़ के लोग हैं उत्सव धर्मी लोग हैं। कोई महीना, कोई पखवाड़ा नहीं जाता जिसमें कोई न कोई तीज त्योहार हो। प्रकृति के साथ मस्त रहने वाले लोग, उन्मुक्त जीवन जीने वाले लोग, आज आप मतदान करेंगे तो इस आपके एक वोट किसानों के, मजदूरों के, महिलाओं के, युवाओं के भविष्य तय करेगा। छत्तीसगढ़ किस रूप में आगे बढ़ेगा ये भी आप इस मतदान से तय होगा। तो साथियों, मतदान करने अपने घर से अवश्य निकलिए, मतदान केंद्र पहुंचिए और मताधिकार का प्रयोग करें और छत्तीसगढ़ को सजाने संवारने के लिए आप मतदान करें। छत्तीसगढ़ की जनता मतदान करेगी। जो किसान हैं वो ऋण माफी पे 3200 रुपया क्विंटल धान खरीदे पे और 20 क्विंटल धान पे मतदान करेगी। जो हमारे लघु उन्नत संग्राहक है, तेंदुपत्ता संग्राहक है, वो 6000 रुपये प्रति मानक बोरा के दर से जो खरीदी की घोषणा हमने की है और 4000 रुपया बोनस प्रति वर्ष। तो युवा है और छात्र हैं जो वयस्क हो चुके हैं, वो केजी से लेके पीजी तक फ्री एजुकेशन पूरे देश में पहली बार हो रहा है, इसलिए मतदान करेंगे। और मजदूर है, पूरे देश में पहला राज्य छत्तीसगढ़ जिसमें 7000 रुपये वार्षिक हम दे रहे थे, अब 10,000 उसको मिलेगा, इसलिए मतदान करेंगे। और महिलाएं हैं जो स्वावलंबन की ओर छत्तीसगढ़ में हमारी माताएं बहनें बढ़ रही है, अब वो सालाना 15,000 रुपया उसको छत्तीसगढ़ गृह लक्ष्मी योजना के लिए मतदान करेगी।
Well, that's all we have in this edition of the Bulletin. Thank you very much for joining me. Have a blessed day ahead. This is me, Neha, signing off.
Hamas attacks Israel. Israel Defense Forces strike back at Hamas. As the war unfolds, watch the comprehensive coverage of the Israel war only on News